So have you seen the thing going on with Elon right now on Twitter where apparently him and Vivek Ramaswamy have been getting into it with the MAGA base because they defended, I think it's called H-1B. It's basically a kind of visa that a lot of immigrants, I think specifically from India, use to come here and work as engineers and stuff like that. So obviously Elon has worked with and hired a lot of people through that program. Vivek is aware of that program as well. But MAGA is obviously just being really racist about it and saying that, we should be hiring only white engineers and it's bullshit to have those type of programs. Because really that's the kind of immigration program they want to get rid of across the board. But it's a program that benefits Elon and his company specifically. And so he supports it. And so he is now going against MAGA racism and saying this is just racist and how could you say this out loud and all this. And, he's basically going to war with them. He's kind of losing it a little bit. Going on his burner accounts and going on rants and stuff, and people are sort of sniffing it out, and he's really kind of spiraling over it. But it's this whole performative thing of how could you guys be so blatantly racist? And it's yeah, dude, this is not only is this the administration and the base that you helped elect, but this is the platform that you helped create. There's a reason that you are being flooded with all of these Nazis and stuff. It's because you have spent the last year boosting them purposely and also courting them. This is your network on Twitter, and you're surprised all of a sudden that they're racist. It's just, I don't know. I don't know why these guys think, they obviously play into the racism on purpose. I don't know why they think that where they draw the line is where the line is going to be drawn. These people just want America to be a white nation. That's it. The only reason they supported you is because they thought you wanted the same thing. So now Elon thinks that he can draw a line in the sand and say, I'm a defender of, people who want to come here and work hard and for the American dream. And it's yeah, dude, that goes against everything that you've been saying for the last 6 months and more. Because you are the racist. The call is coming from inside the house.
I missed that, but not terribly surprising, right? I mean, mucking around with these racists had to bite Elon Musk in the ass eventually, right? I mean, you can act like you're not racist and say that, say things in a very specific, chosen way to try and say well, look, clearly I didn't say anything racist, even though your intent was racist, when people talk about immigration, they talk about, it has to, I support immigration, but I want, people to come over, do things the right way, and the right people to come over. I just don't want a bunch of criminals coming across the border illegally. Sure, great, that looks fine on paper, but really, the MAGA crowd is pretty blatantly racist, and it's not just that they don't want that. They're white nationalists, and they want this to be a white Christian nation. And at the end of the day, they can word things carefully as much as they want, and they can try and act on certain policies, but their true colors are always going to show. And if Elon thought he could roll with these people and not get those colors smeared across him, he's dumber than I thought. He's not a dumb guy in general, right? He has to know that this would bite him in the ass sooner or later, but I think he just thought, he'd play the game long enough, support the right people to make sure, his businesses could do what they want unchecked and he could pay as little in taxes as possible and then wash his hands of it. But those stains stay. It's gonna be very clear in the long run that he's a white supremacist, which I do believe he is. I think, he's kind of going against some of these people now because they're so blatant and open with it. And I believe he's probably the type of white supremacist that doesn't think all other races are trash and shouldn't exist. I don't think he would, if he could press a button and eliminate all of them, he wouldn't do that kind of thing. He's not that kind of racist. I think he's the variety of racist. White supremacist just thinks that white people are best at the end of the day, that other people still have uses, and you can definitely still allow them in society. They just have their place. But he's rolling with people that are white nationalists, and that shit's going to show. Like, you know, if you'd asked me 5 or 6 years ago if I thought Elon would support Trump, I'd be like, no, he's a fucking asshole, but he's an immigrant. There's no way he's going to support Trump. That guy's anti-immigration. But at the end of the day, money's all that matters to Elon. So he needed Trump to get elected. He viewed Trump as a means to an end. He needed Trump because of Trump's policies on big business and his policies on billionaires and stuff like that. And the way he thinks, you know, they shouldn't have to pay taxes, basically. Elon needed him in power, so he had to support him and become full MAGA or dark MAGA or whatever dumbass thing he wants to say. But now he's having to deal with the consequences of that. I don't think he ever would have rolled MAGA, except he just kept getting shit on by the left. And rather than realize, well, what I'm doing is wrong, I need to kind of adjust my course here. Instead, he decided, I think Biden, back in, I think it was 2021, something like that, had a big EV summit and Tesla wasn't invited. And I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back for him. I think he kind of went full MAGA at that point. Like, look, the left isn't going to praise me for what I've done for electric vehicles and thus the environment. Fuck them. I'm going to go the other route, like a comedian that gets canceled and starts pandering to right-wing audiences. I think he went full MAGA from then on. He had already been rolling that way because of COVID stuff, not because of anything to do with the science of COVID or what he believed was actually happening, because of how it affected his businesses. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. That's when I first started to see what a giant piece of shit Elon was when he was on JRE during the pandemic and was just rallying against mask mandates and stuff like that. It's pretty basic stuff to help people, and he was being all pissy about it. His colors were showing that, and he decided to roll and roll even harder with MAGA ever since, and now it's all blowing up in his face, and I think it's fucking hilarious.
That's interesting what you said about the EV summit and how Tesla wasn't invited some years ago by the Biden administration. I'd never caught that, but that's interesting. It kind of reminds of the Obama correspondence dinner where he made fun of Trump, and it sort of planted a seed. And I do remember Biden made some statements about how Elon was, being investigated or should be investigated because he has all these government contracts. I do think Biden has been skeptical of Elon pretty much this entire time, even though Elon supported Biden and I believe voted for Biden, or at least said he did. So there's definitely an interesting dynamic there. I doubt they've had much communication behind the scenes because Biden apparently has barely had any communication behind the scenes. I don't know if you followed that stuff about Biden, but there's at least a couple stories now that are basically saying that Biden has been in pretty bad shape for his entire presidency, and, was being kept away from the cameras, and they sort of, the people closest to him sort of limited his exposure to different people and sort of like made it so that he only was going to interact with others at times where he was sort of at his best. And that basically stuff like that has been going on since 2021, which is kind of fucking crazy. Doesn't mean that it's as bad as it has been in the final stretch of the election since then, but it does kind of say that, it's another point in the box of what you're seeing is exactly what it appears to be. Because, people have been saying that the entire time Biden has been president. The left was saying it before he got elected, after he won the primary, and even before he won the primary, that he was too old for the job. The right has been saying that he was too old for the job and that he was clearly floundering since the beginning of his presidency. And it looks like they were right. Or if they weren't completely right, there at least was a lot of, there was a genuine issue there that needed to be examined. And the liberal left just, refused to even engage with that, saying this is a stutter, this is blah, blah. And, that's an interesting insight into the reactionary tendency of the left, not so much the left, but the liberal side of the spectrum, and you could speak to the reactionary tendencies of the left as well, but in terms of liberals, like just the complete unwillingness to engage with like very simple criticisms of their god leaders, even going back to Obama. There are still people to this day who, if you criticize Obama harshly or even kind of harshly, they'll balk at you. There's a lot of people who have never seriously considered actual criticisms of the Obamas, and or Obama himself, I should say. I shouldn't rope Michelle into that, even though I have my issues with her. But yeah, so point being, there was definitely something there to the criticisms of Biden since the beginning, and we should have fucking took him out and replaced him with Kamala Mamala from the beginning.
That's funny. I didn't think about how similar Trump's being snubbed at the correspondence dinner was to Elon's at the EV summit. But yeah, it is. And it's kind of ridiculous how such big things like Trump taking politics seriously all of a sudden, or Biden or Elon's shift to the right can be kicked off by being snubbed and butthurt. But I guess it happens. As far as Biden being like unfit for the presidency, unable to do the duties of presidency for potentially most of this term, I have heard that, and it wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, look at this guy when you see him in public. Like, you do see him in public less than most presidents, and he when he is, he's tripping over words, saying things wrong, getting lost in his sentence, or falling the fuck down. I watched a supercut of him falling down the other day. It must have been 20 falls in public that this guy's had. Like, that's crazy. 4 years, 20 falls in public. I mean, I don't know the exact number, but it's something like that. It wouldn't surprise me at all. I could see them, trying to hide that from the public. And really, they should have just taken steps to make Kamala Mamala, I guess. I mean, I don't know. She probably would have done a better job than him. I voted for her. Obviously, I think she'd do a better job than Trump. I'm not a huge fan of her in general, but better than Trump, probably better than Biden. I mean, I feel like they're both the same type of opportunistic, two-faced assholes, but, he's clearly, like, senile, out of his mind. I don't know exactly what, old man brain thing he's got going on. But whatever it is, it prevents him from being able to do the job well. So, I don't know. It's crazy to think about how different things could have been if the Democratic Party didn't have their heads shoved so far up their asses.
And the other thing about the whole Elon spectacle is that Trump was conspicuously quiet this whole time, considering it was Trump's fans that Elon was going directly to war with, like his most fervent supporters. And apparently Trump has now said that he backs Elon on his, basically this foreign workers visa type of thing, which, first of all, that's good policy. Like, it's obvious policy. Anybody who's saying that we shouldn't have those type of visas is clearly wrong, just like is the case with many other visas and pretty much all of Trump's immigration policy, that we need to remove people from the country if their parents aren't legal citizens, stuff like that. I mean, it's all horrific policy. But for some reason, Trump has been convinced to back Elon's, preference for those type of visas, which is interesting. It shows that Trump isn't all that principle based, really, or at least the sort of white nationalist element of his thing is less about the principle of it and more about the political use of it. And also it shows that he's like pretty willing to acquiesce to Elon. I thought that maybe this was going to be the thing that got Elon ousted already. And I'm sure that day's coming. It might even still be because of this, just not yet. But apparently Trump was silent on this for like a good 3 days, 2-3 days. And then now he has fallen in line with President Elon Musk and decided to back President Elon Musk's proposal. And so Vice President Trump, it doesn't look like is going to cause President Musk much issues on this. So I don't know. We're seeing a very interesting dynamic shift going on here. And it shows that Elon Musk has a lot of power. Elon Musk is probably like the only person who has the power to whip Trump into line. And I gotta wonder what exactly is the nature of that relationship. I mean, it's clear that he gave him a lot of money, and that helped him win, and Trump understands that. But I don't know. I've never seen Trump this whipped by somebody, apparently whipped by somebody. It must be that Elon is as rich as he is and has like pledged to help Trump with as much money as he needs or something like that. I don't know. I've felt for a while, and a lot of people have speculated that like maybe Trump's money is pretty fucked up at this point, actually. And so he's kind of always doing whatever cash grabs he can do. And so maybe that's why he is really towing the line when it comes to Elon, because he needs his money.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be what it boils down to, right? Is the money. That's what Trump cares about. Always. I mean, I've always said I don't think Trump's even a racist. I think the only color he cares about is green. Like, Trump doesn't care about anyone except himself. And the only thing he cares about is money and power, and the power that comes along with it, you know. And Elon's the richest man in the world, and he's making all these moves, so Trump's cozied up to him. Elon, you know, paid him off, and now he controls the U.S. government. It looks like anything can be bought. I mean, I think most politicians can be bought, right? But Trump especially, like, that's his whole thing. So it's funny, you know, I was liking calling him Elania, but I think it is more that he's the president and Trump's the vice president. I mean, certainly not J.D. Vance. So that's a good way to put it. And I think I'll start referring to him as President Trump now, too, especially because apparently that makes him uncomfortable. I think he's said that, you know, and it's like, well, you know, it probably should, you fucking motherfucker.
Yeah, I mean, at first it seemed like that was a good point of attack, like, pointing out that Elon is acting more like the president and is going to get Trump's goat, and it probably still will at the end of the day, especially because all of this is still happening before Trump has taken power, so things could change very rapidly once he does. But it also is starting to kind of seem like Elon is doing what Trump wants him to do. I'm starting to see a different version of this where maybe Trump, because he is a lot older now, he probably doesn't have as much energy to be the bombastic president as like he used to. And maybe he has essentially told Elon, like, look, you're younger, you got a lot more energy on these issues, like, you know, I'm going to turn you loose and you can do all of the political, you know, movements. Like, you can be the one who's out here doing exactly what he's doing, whether it's literally negotiating with Congress, which is insane. Richest man in the world, unelected, not a part of any cabinet, and he's negotiating with Congress. Insane. And then now he's like battling with Trump's base and trying to whip Trump's base into line. And I don't know. I mean, it seems like maybe because he is a younger guy and for some reason Trump feels that they are aligned or whatever, or maybe he just feels like there's nothing he can do because of the political capital of the situation. But yeah, I mean, it seems like, as of right now, it seems like Trump is comfortable letting Elon play president. So we'll see how long that lasts, but that's starting to look more like a feature and not a bug.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Maybe it is by choice, because, I mean, on paper, looking at it, I would have said, oh, there's no way Trump is going to stand for this. He's not going to let anyone play president. Anything that would, in the public's eye, take power away from him, I would have guessed he'd be really against. But if it's by choice, if he planned it that way, maybe that was part of his deal with Elon. Like, you know, I am getting too old for this. I'm going to be a little more realistic with this term. It's the last one I'm going to get. So I'm going to focus on what I want to focus on. Let you take care of the stuff I don't have the energy for. You are very interested in it. You have a vested interest in certain policies and stuff like that. So I'll let you kind of run wild with it. And the public, you know, I'm sure he thinks the public likes him. I mean, Elon Musk does have a lot of fans. So, I mean, we'll see. It could be by choice. It's a good point.
Yeah, there are some people that say, you remember that that time Elon went on stage with Dave Chappelle and got booed? There are some people apparently behind the scenes who have said that was like a radicalizing moment for him, that was a moment where his whole mindset shifted and kind of what started this like dark MAGA arc. Although he was already there, but he hadn't quite gone like full authoritarian Trump supporter the way he has apparently until that moment. At least that's what some people said in some report somewhere. I don't know, that could be just, you know, whatever, some post hoc bullshit. But it would make sense, though. Stuff like that does genuinely seem to be what makes these people's brains tweak. You know what I mean? Like being made fun of, being laughed at, you know, that really seems to be where the real dark side of these people's personality comes out.
Oh, I hadn't heard that. But yeah, I can totally see that being a wake-up call for him. I mean, you're walking out on stage with the beloved Dave Chappelle. You expect a good response, and then to get almost booed off stage. I mean, yeah, if that doesn't, you know, wake you up to what's going on, I don't know what would. He had to be aware of his, you know, public image a bit. I mean, he's aware, but he does have a fan base, so I think sometimes he forgets just how many people are sick of his shit. So I just can't wait for him to hit rock bottom, maybe make some fucking changes in his life. But I don't know, maybe that's something I shouldn't hold my breath for.
Yeah, I think normal people like us really underestimate how much of a bubble these guys are able to put themselves in. Because, you know, you and me, we go out into the world, we post stuff on the internet, whatever. We're constantly confronted with people who disagree with us, people who think nothing of our opinions, people who, you know what I mean, like could care less about what we have to say. That's like most of what we deal with. We're lucky if we find some people that we can actually talk to and have sort of an even grounded debate. But like most of what we're exposed to is people who are like just on a different planet from us, you know what I mean? And that's just like, I think that would be true for almost anybody, you know, because most communities are not so insular that like all the people you're around are going to agree with you all the time. But especially since, you know, you and I, we go to work, we're in environments that aren't necessarily curated to be a bunch of left-wing or left-leaning people. So we're constantly around people who disagree with us. But these guys are not. Elon Musk, you know, we're talking about a guy who spent the last several years at least only surrounded by people who would affirm what he said, to the point that most of the time somebody tries to challenge what he says, they probably get fired on the spot. And so there must be a very profound psychological phenomenon that happens when a guy like that goes on stage and gets booed, because he probably wasn't expecting it. He probably thought that the people who disagreed with him were marginal and also wouldn't be at that show. I don't remember where it was. I think that was at some kind of like sport game or something like that, some kind of sports ball event. But, you know, he clearly didn't think that anybody in that crowd was going to react that way to him. And I think the reason that caused him to go so dark is probably because he was like, oh, the forces of evil are at hand. You know what I mean? Like the normal human way to respond to that is like, oh, well, there's a lot of people in that crowd who think I suck. All right, moving on. But like, you know, a guy like Elon can't afford to think that way. He has to construct a worldview where all the people who are righteous and good and smart agree with him, and anybody who doesn't, there must be something wrong with them.